My boss slipped me an envelope. Don't open this here, go home, pack a bag. I looked confused. He whispered, you have 24 hours when I opened it. My boss slipped me an envelope at 2:47 p.m. on a Tuesday, right in the middle of the open floor office at Henderson & Associates, where 43 people sat within earshot, typing on keyboards and talking on phones and pretending not to notice when David Chen, our department director, my direct supervisor for 3 years, walked up to my desk holding a plain manila envelope and set it down next to my coffee mug without saying a word. Don't open this here, he whispered, leaning in close enough that I could smell his cologne. Something expensive, woody, the kind of scent that costs $120 a bottle. His voice was so quiet I almost didn't hear him over the ambient noise of fluorescent lights humming and the air conditioning rattling through the vents. Go home, pack a bag. I blinked up at him, my fingers frozen over my keyboard, where I'd been responding to an email about quarterly projections. What? He leaned in even closer, his hand gripping the edge of my desk hard enough that his knuckles went white. You have 24 hours. His eyes, dark brown, usually warm and friendly during our weekly check-ins, looked different now, scared, urgent. Trust me on this. Then he straightened up, adjusted his tie, and walked away, just like that. Back to his corner office with the glass walls, where he sat down at his desk and started typing like nothing had happened. Like he hadn't just delivered what felt like a threat or a warning or something I couldn't begin to process. The office buzzed around me, phones ringing, keyboards clacking, my coworker Jessica 2 desks over laughing at something on her screen, someone in the break room running the coffee maker, everything normal, everything mundane, everything exactly as it had been 60 seconds ago before my world tilted sideways. I stared at the envelope. Plain manila, 9x12, nothing written on the outside, sealed with the kind of metal clasp that makes a soft clicking sound when you open it. I held it all day, through 3 more emails, 2 conference calls, a meeting about the Morrison account that I barely participated in because my brain was somewhere else entirely. My palms sweated, the envelope sat on my desk like a bomb, and everyone who walked past my workstation felt like they were staring at it, noticing it, wondering why I hadn't opened it. By 4:47 p.m., 1 hour before end of day, I couldn't take it anymore. I grabbed the envelope, told Jessica I was going to the bathroom, and practically ran down the hallway to the women's restroom on the 3rd floor, locked myself in the handicapped stall, sat on the closed toilet seat with the envelope in my shaking hands, tore it open. Inside was a single piece of paper, white printer paper, the cheap kind we used for internal memos, typed in 12-point Times New Roman, centered on the page. One line, they're coming for you. My heart slammed against my ribs so hard I thought it might crack bone. The fluorescent lights above me flickered. Someone walked into the bathroom, heels clicking on tile, running water at the sink. I sat frozen, reading that sentence over and over. They're coming for you. Who? Why? Coming for what? I pulled out my phone, iPhone 12, cracked screen I'd been meaning to fix, and saw 3 missed calls from HR. From Helen Rodriguez, the HR director who only called when something was seriously wrong, and 1 missed call from a private number that hadn't left a voicemail. The bathroom door opened again. Sarah? Sarah Taylor? Are you in here? My stomach turned to ice. It was Helen's voice, looking for me. Sarah, I know you're here. We need to talk. Please come to conference room B. Conference room B, the firing room. Everyone in the company knew it. Small conference room on the 2nd floor with frosted glass walls, no windows to the outside. The place where people went in employed and came out carrying cardboard boxes. I flushed the toilet even though I hadn't used it, unlocked the stall, tried to compose my face into something normal. Helen stood by the sinks, mid-50s, gray suit, reading glasses on a chain around her neck, the kind of woman who'd perfected the art of looking sympathetic while destroying your career. There you are, she said with that fake smile HR people practice. We need to discuss something. Conference room B, now please. What's this about? My voice came out steadier than I felt. We'll explain everything in the meeting. Translation, I'm not telling you anything until you're trapped in that room. I followed her downstairs, my legs moving on autopilot. Through the office, where people deliberately didn't look at me, everyone knows what it means when HR walks you somewhere, down the stairs, past the water cooler, to conference room B with its frosted glass and terrible overhead lighting. When I walked in, the whole management team was there. 5 people sitting around the small conference table. Helen Rodriguez at the head, Gary Mitchell from legal wearing his perpetual frown, Christine Park from accounting with her tablet and stylus, Tom Harrison, the VP of operations, and David Chen sitting silently in the corner, still not looking at me. Fake smiles, fake sympathy. The energy in the room like a funeral, where no one particularly liked the deceased. Helen gestured to the empty chair across from her. Please sit. I sat. The chair was too low, which I was pretty sure was deliberate. Make the person being fired feel small, off balance, powerless. Helen opened a folder, pulled out a stack of papers, positioned them carefully in front of her. Sarah, thank you for coming. This is a difficult conversation, but I'll get right to it. Due to recent allegations of financial fraud involving client accounts, we're terminating your employment effective immediately. The words hit me like physical objects. results. What? I actually laughed, this hysterical bark that echoed off the frosted glass. What fraud? I don't even handle client funds. I'm in project management. Helen kept talking in that slow, calm, rehearsed voice HR people use when they're following a script written by lawyers. We've received credible evidence that you've been systematically diverting client funds into a personal account. Over the past 8 months, approximately $43,000 has been misappropriated. This constitutes gross misconduct and potential criminal activity. You're out of your mind. My hands were shaking now, pressed flat against the table. I have never, not once, touched client money. I don't have access to financial systems. Check my credentials, check my login history. Gary from legal slid a folder across the table. These are bank statements showing deposits to an account in your name. Account number ending in 7743. Your signature on the authorization forms. I opened the folder with numb fingers. Bank statements from Chase Bank. Account holder, Sarah J. Taylor. My social security number. Deposits every 2 weeks for 8 months. $500 here, $200 there, $800, $3,000. Amounts that added up to $43,127 according to the highlighted total at the bottom. My signature at the bottom of each transfer authorization. Except I'd never signed these. I'd never seen this account. This wasn't mine. This isn't my signature, I said, my voice rising. I've never opened this account. Someone forged. The handwriting analysis says otherwise, Gary interrupted. We had a forensic document examiner compare these signatures to your employment contracts, your direct deposit forms, your expense reports. It's a match. I turned to David, who'd been silent this entire time, staring at the table like it held the secrets of the universe. David, you know me. 3 years I've worked for you. You know I didn't do this. He finally looked up. His jaw was tight. His eyes met mine for exactly 2 seconds before sliding away. You should go home, Sarah. Something in the way he said it. Not angry, not accusatory, but careful, deliberate, like he was trying to communicate something he couldn't say out loud. Trust me. The envelope, the warning, 24 hours. Fine, I said, standing up. My legs felt like water. I'll go home, but this isn't over. I didn't steal anything, and I'm going to prove it. Helen stood too, pulled a cardboard box from under the table. They'd had it ready, had known exactly how this would go. Security will escort you to collect your personal items. You have 15 minutes. Your access cards and company laptop need to be surrendered before you leave the building. I took the box, walked out of conference room B in a daze. Security guard, Marcus, who I'd chatted with 100 times in the lobby, followed me upstairs with his eyes carefully neutral, watched while I packed my desk, framed photo of my parents, my coffee mug with the cat on it that my sister had given me for Christmas, the succulent plant that had somehow survived 3 years of my neglect, a stress ball shaped like a brain that I squeezed during difficult calls. Jessica watched from her desk, eyes wide. Sarah, what's happening? I'll tell you later, I said, because Marcus was standing right there, and I didn't trust my voice not to crack. 15 minutes later, I was in the parking garage, sitting in my car, 2019 Honda Civic, still had that newish car smell, with a cardboard box on my passenger seat, and my entire life feeling like it had just collapsed into rubble. I drove home on autopilot. 23 minutes through Chicago traffic, past the lake that looked gray and cold under April clouds, to my apartment in Lincoln Park. 1 bedroom, what $850 monthly rent, 4th floor walk-up. Parked in my assigned spot, carried the box upstairs with hands that wouldn't stop shaking. Found a second envelope under my door. Plain white this time. No address, no stamp. Someone had hand-delivered it, had slipped it under my door while I was being fired, while my life was being systematically destroyed by people I'd trusted. I unlocked my apartment, dropped the box on my kitchen counter, tore open the envelope. Inside was a flash drive. Kingston 32 GB, the cheap kind you buy in bulk at Office Depot. No note, no explanation. I booted up my personal laptop, MacBook Air, 3 years old, running slow but functional, and plugged in the drive with fingers that felt like they belonged to someone else. One file, audio recording, MP3 format. File name, Proof MP3. I clicked play. Static first, then voices. David Chen's voice, immediately recognizable. And another voice, female, bright, cheerful, in that performative way that set my teeth on edge even through the recording. Jenna Mitchell, the office angel, 26 years old, blonde hair always perfectly styled, brought homemade cookies every Friday, flirted with every manager over 35, smiled like she'd never had a negative thought in her life. The coworker everyone loved because she was so sweet and so helpful and such a team player. So it's done? Jenna's voice on the recording, laughing. Not her professional office laugh, her real laugh, sharp and satisfied. She'll actually take the fall? The documents are perfect, David's voice. I switched the authorization forms last week, used the signatures from her expense reports, scanned them, printed them on the bank forms. By the time anyone looks close enough to notice their forgeries, she'll already be fired. My blood turned to ice in my veins. I sat frozen at my kitchen table, laptop screen glowing. that audio file playing evidence of my destruction. "God, you're good at this," Jenna said. "How long did it take you to set up the account?" 3 weeks. Had to use her social, her address, make it look real enough that the bank wouldn't flag it. The deposits were easy, just redirected client payment processing through a backdoor in the accounting system. Small amounts, spread out, nothing that would trigger alerts. And she doesn't suspect anything? She's clueless. Perfect target. Works hard, keeps her head down, never questions authority. She'll be gone by end of day tomorrow, and I'll have full control of the Morrison account. $2.3 million budget, all the commission, all the credit. What about the money in the dummy account? We split it. $43,000 isn't bad for a few weeks of work. And once she's fired, there's no way she proves it wasn't her. The forensic examiner will confirm the signatures match because they do match. They're her actual signatures, just on forms she never actually signed. Jenna laughed again, that bright, cheerful sound that made my skin crawl. I can't believe this is working. She actually doesn't deserve this job anyway. She's been coasting for years on being reliable. Meanwhile, I've been here for 2 years doing twice the work. She doesn't deserve a lot of things, David said, and his voice had gone cold in a way I'd never heard before. This is just correcting an imbalance. The recording ended, just cut off mid-conversation, like whoever had been recording had run out of space or time or courage. I sat at my kitchen table and stared at my laptop screen until the screensaver kicked in. Photos from last summer's vacation to Colorado, me and my sister hiking Rocky Mountain National Park, back when my life made sense and people I worked with weren't actively destroying me. They'd set me up. David and Jenna, together, deliberately, methodically, had created a fake bank account, forged my signatures, stolen client money, built an entire false narrative about me being a thief, all so David could take control of my project and Jenna could, what? Get a promotion? Get recognition? Get revenge for some perceived slight I didn't even know I'd committed? And David had warned me, had given me that envelope, told me to go home, told me I had 24 hours, had sat in that conference room and watched them fire me, and then told me, with his eyes, with his tone, to trust him. He was covering his tracks, or setting me up for something worse, or he felt guilty and was giving me a chance to run before whatever came next. I didn't sleep that night, couldn't. My brain wouldn't shut off. I made coffee at midnight, at 2 a.m., at 4 a.m., paced my apartment until my downstairs neighbor pounded on the ceiling and yelled at me to stop. Listened to that recording 17 times, memorizing every word, every inflection, every piece of evidence of my own destruction. By 6 a.m., I'd made a decision. I wasn't running, I wasn't hiding, I was fighting back. I called my cousin Marcus, not the security guard, different Marcus. This one was 32 and worked in IT security for a financial firm downtown, owed me a favor from when I'd let him crash on my couch for 3 months after his divorce. "Sarah, it's 6 in the morning. I need your help. Now. I'll buy you breakfast, but I need you here in an hour." He showed up at 7:14 a.m. with dark circles under his eyes and a laptop bag over his shoulder. I made him coffee, played him the recording, showed him the bank statements and documents from the firing. He listened without interrupting. Then he opened his laptop. Dell XPS, custom built, the kind of machine that probably cost more than my car, and said, "Let me see what I can find." For the next 6 hours, Marcus worked. Logged into systems I didn't understand, ran programs with names like Wireshark and Metasploit, traced digital breadcrumbs through Henderson and Associates network using credentials he absolutely shouldn't have had, but apparently did. "Your boss is smart," Marcus said around noon, eating the Thai food I'd ordered because we needed fuel and I couldn't think about cooking. "But he's not as smart as he thinks. Look." He turned his laptop toward me, screen filled with what looked like financial transactions, timestamps, user IDs. "This is Henderson's internal payment processing system. See these transfers? $500 on January 15th, $200 on January 29th, $800 on February 12th, all the amounts that showed up in that fake account under your name. Okay? They were initiated from your boss's login credentials, not yours. He accessed the system, set up automatic transfers, routed them through what he thought was an untraceable path, but there's always a trail if you know where to look. IP addresses, server logs, metadata. My hands were shaking again. So, I can prove he did it? Better. I can prove Jenna helped. Look at this. He pulled up another screen. Email exchanges between them going back 8 months. Encrypted, but badly. They were using the company email system to coordinate, which is monumentally stupid. Meet me after work to discuss the ST situation. Phase 2, ready for Morrison account. Signatures confirmed authentic. Forensic examiner won't find discrepancies. ST. Sarah Taylor. Me. They'd been planning this for 8 months. But wait, there's more, Marcus said with a grim smile. Because your boy David isn't just a fraud, he's also terrible at covering his tracks. He didn't just frame you for $43,000. He's been skimming from client accounts for 3 years. Small amounts, spread across multiple accounts, always under the threshold that would trigger automated audits. Total, I'm seeing approximately $340,000. The number hit me like a punch. He stole $350,000 from clients, from Henderson and Associates, and he was going to pin it all on you if anyone ever noticed. You were the fall guy, not just for this one thing, but for everything. I stood up, paced my apartment, looked out my 4th floor window at Lincoln Park below. People walking dogs and jogging and living normal lives where their bosses weren't sociopathic criminals. What do? Marcus closed his laptop. You have evidence now. Recordings, forensic data, email trails. You call a lawyer, get everything documented properly, establish chain of custody, then you burn them down. I called Sarah Chen, no relation to David, despite the shared last name. An employment lawyer I'd met at a networking event 2 years ago. Left a voicemail at 1:47 p.m. explaining I'd been wrongfully terminated and had evidence of fraud. She called back 17 minutes later. Come to my office, now. Bring everything. At 4:30 p.m., I sat in Sarah Chen's office in the Loop, 20th floor, windows overlooking Michigan Avenue, the kind of office that cost $600 an hour and was worth every penny. She listened to the recording. Reviewed Marcus's findings, read the termination documents. This is extraordinarily clear-cut, she said. They committed fraud, forgery, and wrongful termination. The recording alone is damning. Illinois is a one-party consent state, so if someone involved in the conversation recorded it, it's admissible. The financial forensics seal it. What do? Monday morning, Henderson and Associates is having their monthly all-hands meeting. Every employee, every manager, the CEO. I know because I've done work with them before. They're predictable. She smiled, sharp and predatory. I think you should attend. I'm fired. Security won't let me in. You're not fired. You're on administrative leave pending investigation of allegations you haven't had the opportunity to refute. That's what I'm going to argue if they try to stop you. And I'll be with you. Monday morning came with spring rain that made Chicago's streets smell like wet concrete and exhaust. I wore my best suit, charcoal gray, the one I'd bought for my last promotion that now felt like it belonged to a different life. Met Sarah Chen in the lobby of Henderson and Associates at 8:47 a.m. Ready? She asked. No, but let's do it anyway. The all-hands meeting was in the large conference room on the 5th floor, space for 80 people, projector screen at the front. CEO James Henderson standing by the podium looking grim. The room was already full when Sarah and I walked in. People turned, stared, whispered. David Chen saw me and his face went white. Jenna Mitchell was sitting 3 rows back, perfectly styled as always, and when our eyes met, she smiled that bright, false smile before it faltered. Security started toward us, but Sarah held up her hand, showed her attorney credentials. My client has a right to address allegations made against her character and professional reputation. If you'd like to forcibly remove her, I'll be filing an additional lawsuit for violation of her rights. James Henderson looked confused. What's going on? Sarah Taylor? You were terminated last week. Wrongfully, I said. My voice carried across the room, steady and clear. But before you continue your meeting about the serious breach of trust you mentioned in your company-wide email this morning, you might want to hear what I have to say. Henderson looked at Helen Rodriguez from HR. She shrugged helplessly. 5 minutes, Henderson said. Then security removes you. I walked to the front of the room, pulled out my laptop, connected it to the projector system. Sarah stood beside me, her presence a promise that everything I was about to do was legal and protected. My name is Sarah Taylor. I worked in project management for 3 years. Last Tuesday, I was terminated for allegedly stealing $43,000 from client accounts. I pulled up the first slide, bank statements showing the fake account. These documents were presented as proof. My signature, my social security number, my account. Murmurs through the room. David was staring at his shoes. Jenna had stopped smiling. Except I never opened this account. Someone forged my signatures, used real signatures from my expense reports and scanned them onto fake bank documents. Next slide. The forensic comparison Marcus had prepared, showing how the signatures were identical because they were literally photocopied. This isn't sophisticated forgery, it's copy-paste. Louder murmurs. Henderson was leaning forward now, paying attention. The person who did this was very careful, covered their tracks, used my credentials, my information, built a perfect case against me. I paused. But they made one mistake. They told someone about it. I hit play on the audio file. The recording filled the room. David and Jenna's voices, clear and damning, discussing how they'd framed me, how they'd forged documents, how they'd stolen money and planned to make me take the fall. The room erupted. People standing, exclaiming, pointing at David and Jenna. Henderson's face went from confused to furious in the space of 3 seconds. Wait, David stood up. That recording is fake. It's edited. You can't. It's authenticated, Sarah said calmly. Forensically verified by 2 independent experts. And before you claim it was taken out of context, we have the full 18-minute recording and written transcripts. I pulled up the next slide. Marcus's financial analysis. But that's not all. Because while David Chen was busy framing me for $43,000, he was actually stealing $340,000 from Henderson and Associates over 3 years. Small transfers from client accounts, always under $5,000 to avoid audit triggers, routed through shell accounts, converted to cryptocurrency, then back to cash. Silence now. Complete, total silence. Henderson grabbed the podium like he needed it for support. How do you have this information? Forensic IT analysis. All of it documented, time-stamped, ready for law enforcement review. I looked directly at David. You were good, but not good enough. Security was moving now, but not toward me, toward David and Jenna. Henderson had given them a signal. Subtle, just a nod, but clear. No, wait, this is entrapment. She can't just... Jenna stood up, tried to push past people in her row. Sit down, Henderson said, his voice like ice. Both of you, don't move, don't speak. Security, ensure they stay until the police arrive. He pulled out his phone, dialed. I need officers at Henderson and Associates, 5th floor, corporate fraud investigation. Yes, I'll hold. I unplugged my laptop, stepped back. Sarah touched my arm gently. Well done, she whispered. David was staring at me with this expression of betrayal that would have been funny if it wasn't so pathetic. Like I was the one who'd done something wrong by not quietly accepting being destroyed. Henderson hung up the phone, looked at me. Ms. Taylor, I owe you an apology. Multiple apologies. For the wrongful termination, for the failure to properly investigate, for the damage to your reputation and career. You can apologize formally in writing, Sarah said before I could respond. Along with her back pay, compensation for damages, and a significant settlement to avoid the lawsuit we're prepared to file. Henderson nodded slowly. Of course. Whatever Ms. Taylor requires. The police arrived 12 minutes later. 2 officers from the Financial Crimes Unit, Detective Lisa Martinez and Detective Robert Chang, both carrying tablets and looking like they'd seen this kind of thing before and were tired of corporate fraud. They arrested David and Jenna right there in the conference room. Read them their rights while 80 employees watched in silence. David tried to explain, to justify, to somehow talk his way out of handcuffs and reality. Jenna cried, loud, dramatic sobs that might have worked on the managers she'd been flirting with but didn't move Detective Martinez at all. You have the right to remain silent, Martinez said flatly. I suggest you use it. They were led out past me. David stopped, met my eyes one last time. That envelope, he said quietly. I was trying to warn you. I wasn't trying to. You weren't trying to destroy me? I asked. Because the recording says otherwise. I felt guilty. At the end. I tried to give you a chance to… To what? Run? Hide? Let you get away with it? I shook my head. You gave me 24 hours. I used them to build a case. Thanks for the head start. They took him away. The meeting dissolved into chaos. People crowding around me with questions, apologies, shocked reactions. Henderson trying to restore order, HR looking like they wanted to disappear through the floor. Sarah and I left together, took the elevator down to the lobby where spring rain was still falling on Michigan Avenue. What happens now? I asked. Now? She smiled. Now you decide what you want. Your job back, they'll offer it. A settlement large enough that you never have to work here again, they'll offer that too. Whatever you choose, you have leverage. I thought about it. About walking back into that office every day, seeing the people who'd been ready to believe I was a thief, working for a company that had fired me based on forged documents without a real investigation. I want the settlement, I said, and a reference letter so glowing it could light up Chicago, and I want them to admit publicly that I was wrongfully terminated. Done, Sarah said. I'll have the terms drafted by end of day. 3 weeks later, I received a check for $280,000, 6 months severance, back pay, damages, and a confidentiality agreement I didn't sign because I wanted the right to tell my story. Henderson and Associates issued a company-wide memo acknowledging the wrongful termination and apologizing for the failure in our verification processes. David and Jenna were both charged with wire fraud, identity theft, and embezzlement. David pleaded guilty 6 months later, got 4 years in federal prison. Jenna took a plea deal, 18 months and restitution. They both lost their careers, their reputations, their futures. I got a new job. Better company, better pay, better boss who actually respected me instead of framing me for crimes. Started therapy to deal with the trust issues and the nightmares where I opened envelopes and found accusations I couldn't disprove. A year later, I was sitting in my new apartment, nicer neighborhood, bigger space, no more fourth-floor walk-up, when I got an email. From David, prison email system, monitored and logged and probably read by a dozen officials. I'm sorry, it said. I know it doesn't matter now. I know you won't forgive me, but I am sorry. I was desperate. The gambling debts, the pressure, the feeling like I'd never be successful enough. It doesn't excuse what I did. The envelope was the only decent thing I did in that whole nightmare. I thought if I warned you, maybe you'd run, and I could at least tell myself I'd tried to minimize the damage. But you didn't run. You fought. You won. And you deserve to win. I hope you're doing well. I hope you never think about me again. David. I read it once, then I deleted it. Some apologies come too late. Some damage can't be undone with words in an email sent from a prison in rural Illinois. Some betrayals are too calculated, too complete, too thorough to forgive. But I'd won. I'd taken his 24-hour warning and turned it into ammunition, had used his guilt against him, had exposed his crimes, had ensured that everyone who'd been ready to believe I was a thief now knew the truth. The envelope he'd slipped me had said, "They're coming for you." He'd been right. They had come, but I'd been ready, and when it was over, I was the one still standing.